Hey everyone, well this is the one, honorable mention number one, the biggest oversight on this list. And it's certainly not for a lack of metal solos, as there's tons of metal solos on this list. Kirk Hammett's here 3 or 4 times, Dimebag Darrell a couple of times, Randy Rhoads, Tony Iommi, John Petrucci, so on and so forth. I honestly don't know why it wasn't included. It's pretty much the holy grail of metal guitar solos. Generally considered one of the most difficult and one of, if not, the greatest metal guitar solo of all time. Go find a list of greatest guitar solos of all time. Any list, except this one, of course. And especially metal solos, and you'll find it listed, usually very high up. And if it's a list of metal solos, it's usually in the top 5, if not number 1. There are more covers of this solo on YouTube than probably any other guitar solo in history, except maybe Comfortably Numb or Hotel California. And now there's another one. It's like I said, one of the holy grails of metal soloing, and I'm glad I know how to play it now. And to say that there are more covers of this solo than almost any other on YouTube might lead some people to believe that it's not that difficult of a solo to play. That is most definitely not the case. All it tells me is that there's a hell of a lot of really great guitar players out there slugging it away in their dining rooms like I am, and bedrooms and basements. But to play this solo is one thing. To compose it is something else entirely. What makes the solo to Tornado of Souls so special is not particularly its speed or difficulty, though it's certainly difficult and fast. It's its composition, the subtleties and nuances of Marty's playing that really make it shine. Most of us mere mortal guitar soloists simply don't have that magic combination of not only having nearly every single technical aspect of guitar soloing down, and this solo requires almost all of them, but an ear for melody to put it all together and compose a solo that really sings and is not just shredding wankery. And that's the magic of this solo. It sings, it's melodic, and it's perfectly constructed. It builds, it has tension and release. It takes us somewhere throughout its runtime. It doesn't just fill a hole in the music like a lot of solos do. It becomes the music. It becomes something more than the song itself. And what do I mean by that? Well, personally, I don't like the song Tornado of Souls, and I'm a Megadeth fan. It's one of my least favorite songs of theirs. Sure, it has a great riff and some great playing in it. Almost all Megadeth does. And I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know when I say that Dave Mustaine's voice is not for everybody, but I find his voice particularly grating in Tornado of Souls, at least to my ear, and it has kind of rather a weak chorus, just not my favorite Megadeth track. But that solo, the solo elevates the track into almost like legendary status. It's that good. This solo almost deserves a better song wrapped around it, in my opinion. Marty Friedman, though already hired and in the band at the time, this solo was pretty much Friedman's audition to stay in the band, to see if everything was going to gel with these guys when they were recording their classic album Rust in Peace. And he had this to say about the solo. He said, "When I finished composing the solo to Tornado of Souls, Dave Mustaine came in the studio, gave it a listen, turned around, and without saying a word, he shook my hand. And it was at that moment that I felt that I was truly the guitarist for this band." And personally, I remember back in the 80s when Marty Friedman first hit the scene, a few years after the initial shred guitar nuclear bomb of Swedish guitarist Yngwie Malmsteen made his mark on the world. America started pumping out one lightning-fast shredder after another. Players like Tony McAlpine, Vinnie Moore, Chris Impellitteri, Jason Becker, Paul Gilbert, amongst many others, and of course Marty Friedman. These guys were mostly pumping out albums, instrumental albums for the most part, of technically lightning-fast guitar playing from start to finish. It was a trend that, though popular at the time, was obviously unsustainable. One could only listen to so much of this stuff before it all kind of started sounding the same. To truly leave a mark in guitar history, because they were certainly talented enough guitar players to do so, these players needed to step outside this game. Once the neoclassical guitar shredding boom died, which it eventually did. And a few did change directions and reap the rewards, sort of. Paul Gilbert joined Mr. Big and had success with them. Jason Becker joined David Lee Roth, though was sadly stricken with ALS before given the chance to bring his immense talent to a much larger audience. And of course, Marty joined Megadeth after Dimebag Darrell of Pantera turned them down because he wanted his brother in the band as well on the drums. Megadeth didn't want that. The others that I mentioned, well, they basically continued in the album-length neoclassical instrumental game and are pretty much, except for us guitar players, pretty much forgotten about these days. Though that shouldn't take away from the incredible talent that these guys possessed. McAlpine and Vinnie Moore and Chris Impellitteri were frightfully good guitar players. It's just that their chosen genre of music died and kind of passed them by. Regardless, Marty Friedman was one of the standouts from this group. And I remember getting my hands on that first Cacophony album that he did with Jason Becker and just sitting there with my head spinning while listening to it. It was exhilarating and depressing at the same time. I personally had practiced so goddamn hard as a teenager, like often 10 to 14 hours a day for years. Trying to get good, trying to be the best, and I thought I was pretty good when I was like 22 or 23. And then I heard this, and like, how the hell were these guys the same age as me, who couldn't possibly have practiced as much as I did as a teenager, so much better than I was? It was a bit soul-crushing, to tell you the truth. Just another level of playing altogether. By this point, I think I was like 22. I wasn't willing to put more countless hours in to reach that level, as I was already playing in bands and whatnot, and I'd already, felt I was doing okay. It's obvious that some guitar players work damn hard at it, and regardless of all that practice, still never reach the heights of other guitar players. While there are others who also work damn hard at it, but also just have a built-in natural ability to go along with it that propels them to another level altogether. And I believe that Marty Friedman and Jason Becker had this natural ability ingrained in their playing. And then you couple that with 7 or 8 years of hard practice, and there you go, like guitar wizardry that only a very few achieve. Marty and Jason were scary good players back in the 80s, and though sadly we'd hear little from Jason Becker going forward because of his disease, Marty, of course, would join Megadeth for 10 years and showcase his talents over numerous albums throughout the 90s before heading off to Japan to become somewhat of a star of his own right to an adoring Japanese audience, and lots of Japanese girls, I suppose. Regardless, this solo to Tornado of Souls, I needed every moment of the past 8 or 9 days to get this one under my belt. Really bloody tough to play. Every technique in the book in this one, except two-handed tapping. Thankfully, I think I made my thoughts clear on where I stand with regards to two-handed tapping in my last video. I don't like it. This one, big bends, half-step bends, quarter-step bends, legato, vibrato for days, sweeping, string skipping, arpeggio, slides, economy picking, alternate picking, tremolo picking, huge stretches, speed, chaos, everything. I actually made a video last week of a practice session I had while I was working on this solo. I'll post it down below if you'd like to check it out. I'd only been at it for a couple of nights at this point, so mistakes abound throughout it. Within the video, I had stated that I had the part with the big long stretch. I had that down doing alternate picking and not economy picking or doing mini sweeps, but I switched. I switched to mini sweeps because it sounds cleaner and better. And that ending, what the fuck is that ending? That was certainly a chore to learn and figure out by ear. I think I got something resembling the original, but who knows? It's just madness for about 20 seconds or so. Happy with it in the end, though. Played it well, I think. You be the judge, of course. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Just one more cover of Tornado of Souls to add to the thousands of others on YouTube. But hey, it needed to be added to this list in some way, so I added it as an honorable mention. ridiculous that it's not on this list. Get your game together, Guitar World magazine editors, for when you update this list in the future, and don't just add it, put it where it belongs, in the top 10. And that, my friends, as Forrest Gump would like to say, is all I've got to say about that one. And we'll see you next week. Hold on, I gotta shut this down here. We'll see you next week, and with number 1, and my project will be done. And then we're moving on to something new. You know, underappreciated, underrated, unknown, top 50 greatest riffs of all time. Riffs, solos. And take care of yourselves. Hope you're well in your little guitar corner of the world, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.